If you're that kid that wished upon a star that you live in interesting times, screw you. So if you're thinking of going into any kind of cybersecurity, or even if you want to work in IT, I think it's important that you know about the different kind of cyber adversaries. Now, we tend to just call them hackers, but that's not actually really proper because they tend to range in who they are and what they intend to do and why they intend to do it. Now, the first type is probably what you're most familiar with. It's what we call the hacker. So hackers just tend to be people that are more or less doing it for the thrill. Now, this may seem weird, and I didn't understand it until one day when I was waiting to see if I could get tickets to John Oliver's show. Now, there was a timer that was counting down, and the sign-up form was disabled until that timer ran out. Now, knowing what I know about web development, I opened up the console and the inspector to see, could I just turn off the disabled on the field and just go ahead and sign up. Now, I know enough to know to not do such a thing, and I didn't. And I don't think I could have gotten away with it that way anyway from what I looked at. It is kind of a really serious crime to mess with these systems, and it's definitely not worth tickets to John Oliver's show. No offense, John Oliver. But I certainly understood that pull, that if I started to work on trying to do that hack, as a technical person, as a programmer, I would have kind of got my mindset to pulling it off. Now, knowing that it's a crime would definitely be enough to dissuade me, but it's not enough to dissuade all people. Now, there is a subcategory known as hacktivists, where they kind of don't like something for a reason, and they're sort of attracted to trying to find vulnerabilities in it because of that. And because they are against that thing, they might be more likely to, throw away the legal concerns because they see the organization that they may be attacking as evil. So the next type of actor is criminal groups. So these are people that are doing their hacking for a monetary reward. Now, the first one that comes to mind is ransomware, and that's one of the higher level ones, but there's also lower level ones. For instance, some hackers will try to write programs that probe different servers on the internet and try to plant ads inside of them. And they do this with something called SEO. So basically, SEO is how Google decides what it's going to show you. SEO stands for search engine optimization. And what a bad actor might do to promote a website or even a customer of theirs is try to find servers where they can create a web page advertising for their customer or themselves and try to have it hosted on a domain that may otherwise be trustworthy. So for example, if I can find McDonald's.com to be vulnerable in some way and plant a link on there for my website, and Google sees that, it might think McDonald's is interested in my company and be more likely to rank my company higher. Now, the weird thing about this is that they're not really doing any direct harm to Google aside from possibly, using some of their energy. And generally that doesn't add up to that much. So there are cases where the criminals are not actually that dangerous. It goes up a little worse when they try to do things like Bitcoin mine. So they'll try to plant a program on a server that Bitcoin mines. Still only uses energy, but can be a bit more destructive because it slows the server down, and it's more energy, basically. Now, ransomware is going to be probably one of the most dangerous, where the criminals are actually targeting individuals. And what they will try to do is find a network that's vulnerable, or maybe even send just something as an email and have someone on that network open it up. If that network isn't well internally protected, that ransomware can spread, in which case it locks the whole network down, and then they give the user or company a little message that tells them, hey, pay us this money or we're not unlocking your stuff. Now, this is a fairly new phenomena, and it is considered to be a pretty big problem in the cyber world. The big issue is that if you don't really lock down your network, both externally and internally, it can kind of easily infiltrate and then cause a lot of damage. And as defenders, damage is what we're truly concerned about. But cyber criminals are a little bit higher ranking than hackers or even hacktivists when it comes to how dangerous that they are. But the next group is even worse, and that would be nation states. Now, nation states are the most dangerous, and there's a couple of reasons for that. One is that they're well funded. It tends to be a government of a country that is pushing them along. And you might realize that there is one particular country that a lot of people are thinking about this with right now. So the other reason is that they will collect things called 0 days. 0 days are just vulnerabilities that nobody knows about. Now, when a normal hacker takes advantage of a vulnerability, what normally happens is there's some kind of announcement that this vulnerability exists and there's a patch that can be applied or some steps that can be taken to mitigate the vulnerability or make it no longer a weakness. Now, what that hacker will do is try to find servers that haven't been patched and then try to use those vulnerabilities to make the server do what they want it to do and not what the owner of the server wants it to do. Well, with a 0 day, you can collect these vulnerabilities together and you just put them in a drawer somewhere and don't tell anybody about them. So a nation state can do this quite well because they spend tons of time just trying to find these things. And once they do, because nobody says anything, they can kind of pile them up. Now, the victim of a 0 day attack will really have no good way of defending against it. There are things they can do to mitigate it, such as monitoring their network to see, abnormal traffic and possibly close things down when they see that. But because they don't know the 0 day exists, they can't actually patch the system. Now, this can be a real problem if you're another nation state, or even if you're an organization associated with that nation state. So that's kind of the problem we're facing in cybersecurity right now, is how do we deal with these people that have these 0 days? Well, the easiest way to do it is to have a plan for if one of these things happens, how you're going to mitigate damage. And network monitoring is another way forward. But if you can solve this problem, or if you're interested in these types of problems, cybersecurity might be an interesting way for you to go, because it's not just about thinking about the technical side, about how the vulnerabilities work, about what would be susceptible to what, and where should you put your trust, but it's also about what would you do if you were attacked? How would you recover from that attack? What kind of backup plans do you have? And thinking about these things can be quite fun. All right, guys, I hope you like this video. Have a good night.